What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Fierce Framework podcast, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, MaryBeth. I'm a business coach with a passion to see women breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and to start living life more on our own terms. I believe the world benefits when women are living lives that we're lit up about and we're pursuing a purpose that makes us feel fulfilled. My goal with this podcast is to share inspiration, stories of other entrepreneurs just like you, and practical tools and tips to help you become fierce in your business. If that sounds good to you, you're going to love this episode. Let's get down to it. What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework. Today, I want to dive into talking about having a bird's eye view and taking mouse steps. It's basically the concept of kind of setting goals and dreaming big and being able to kind of zoom out and look at things from, to use zoomed out again, like a zoomed out perspective. Okay. And we kind of get into this mode a lot. I think this has been front of mind for me a lot recently, talking about goals and the goal setting event that I had in January. And like, I can't believe it's already March, but that is still fresh in my mind, apparently. But then also like the contrast and the complement of taking like little mouse steps. And I actually Googled like who to give credit to because I heard an author talk about it on Kathy Heller's podcast and I couldn't remember who it was. And then as I was Googling it, I got all kinds of results and not the author. So apparently this is a super common like analogy or kind of visual to use that I only heard about that one time, and I was super excited to share it with you. So if you already know about this, I'm proud of you. Um, but I realized this recently, like a few weeks ago, I guess, maybe a month or so ago, I was struggling with that baby step. Like what do I do right now? I had a big goal, but I felt unsure of like what little steps to take in a moment. And that could be a whole episode by itself because there's a million reasons for that, right? Especially if you're ADHD like me, a million. Um, but also like just seeing and the people around me as well that it went good heavens, talking is what I'm good at. Um, it's important to zoom out and have that like big picture, high level vision to know what you're working towards, right? Because the hours make up the day makes up the weeks make up the years make up the lifetime. Okay. And it can be really easy. And I know a lot of us, like before we kind of broke out of the role we were playing, we were doing that kind of going through step by step, day by day, just going through the motions, checking these boxes, living in these routines. And then something clicked and we like woke up and we're like, this is not getting me where I want to go. Like if I keep along this path, if my days keep looking like this, I am going to end up in a place that I don't want to be at. So then we take the leap and we're like, okay, great, visualize, think, dream, like where do you want to be? Where do you want to end up? What do you want your life to look like? And so then you get this big, like beautiful vision and these lofty goals, and you get all excited about this dream. And then I think it can be really hard to kind of get back down to the nitty gritty and then be like, okay, so these are the steps I was taking. This is a routine I was doing. These are the things that I was doing, the habits I had, whatever. What do I need to do now to get over here? And that is a critical, like, that's so important to get to that place and realize, right? Because you're like, well, I can't just keep doing what I was doing before because then I'm going to end up where I was going to go before. So if I want to get somewhere new, what are the streets I have to take? What are the turns I have to make instead? Like, what are the new directions, right? What is the step by step then? And a lot of the time, like, we don't know because we haven't been there before. And then, especially when you're like new on that journey, you might not know a lot of people who have been there before either. That's part of why I'm so passionate about what I do with my podcast and my coaching, is because I'm like, ooh, I was just there not that long ago. I'm not a billionaire living on my private island. Like, I still work my corporate job, but like, I am a few steps ahead, and I remember how I got here, and I want to help you get there as well, right? So there's like several different strategies you can take, but the big picture concept that I wanted to start with is that you need both. And it's important to like alternate periodically. So this is part of why it's so important to reflect and to like reset and to revisit like your goals and intentions and even your dreams sometimes, right? Like, if you don't know what is possible, you can't always dream it for yourself. Oftentimes you can't, right? Like, and so as you grow and develop and you learn and you're exposed to new things and you get new ideas and like you see the world in a different way, a lot of the times our goals and our dreams change as we change. And a lot of the times, like, you can be like become more expansive because you realize that there are more opportunities, and there continue to be more opportunities, right? So like, think of it as something we're familiar with, like a college degree. Okay, so if you don't have a college degree, you have, whatever jobs, and I'm thinking in the mindset of like a decade ago. Now with like social media and creators and like the world is a different place. But, a decade or two ago, right, it was like if you didn't have a college degree, these were your job options. If you did, then it opens a whole world of possibilities where now you have all these additional options that you didn't have before. And then coupled with that is sometimes you didn't even know that jobs existed, right? Until maybe you're in an internship. And so you have to like get the degree first, or like go get into the school, right? And like be doing the internship. And then you start making connections and you start getting like more in the field, and you start seeing like, oh, holy cow, like there's video game testers. Like, not that you need a college degree for that. You might, I don't know. I don't know anything about video games. That's just the first thing that popped into my head. My brain is a fun place to be. But it's like, okay, maybe you didn't even know that you can make money playing video games. But like, once you get into that industry, once you get like into that field, you start discovering more possibilities. So first of all, we want to zoom out to see if we're on track, because there's a lot of reasons, but it's so easy to shift back to what you're used to and to fall back into old habits and routines because like that's what you've been doing, right? So when you're trucking along and you're working towards your goals and you're trying to change like your daily habits and take different steps so you can end up somewhere else, it's important to zoom out and see like, how am I doing? Like, oh, look how much more aligned I am to where I want to go than I used to be. That was abnormally positive. I'm listening to The Gap and the Gain right now, and so I'm like, put it in the perspective of being closer to where you want to be instead of like the negative of falling back into your old ways. Anyway, continually learn, read, it changes your ideas and how you speak. Um, so then you can see like, oh, I used to watch Netflix 5 nights a week. And now I'm walking 2 nights a week and watching Netflix 3 nights a week. Like, wow, look at how much progress I've made. Or I have been intentionally spending time with the people I care about more often. And you can see the progress you're making and how you're actually changing those patterns, which is so important to build yourself up and to keep going, and to see, like, to get that perspective, take a step back and see, okay, are there pitfalls? Are there additional supports that I can put into place to help me continue to be where I want to be more often? Are there things that I can let go? Are there people that I can bring alongside me or touch base with more often or whatever? Pick up a book and learn something new that's going to help me be more strategic, like all those kinds of things. So taking that step back and getting that perspective to see, how am I doing? What is my progress? Amazing. Let's keep doing it. Let's do more of this and less of that, right? As well as maybe you need to change course a little bit. Like if you don't want what you wanted before, then that's a great time to kind of take a step back and be like, regroup and be like, okay, so what do I want to do now? If I was over here and then I thought I wanted to go here and now I want to come here, like, okay, it's just another, we need to make some more adjustments, right? And that is all part of life. Okay. This is important because this is normal. It is not normal to know what you want to do and to follow the steps and get there seamlessly and go from like A to B in a straight line and be like, oh my gosh, I arrived. I'm happy. Like, I'm fulfilled. I'm living my purpose. You're welcome, world. Like, that is not normal. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Love that for you. What is normal is that trying and trying again and experimenting and be like, nope, we're not going to do that. Or, oh, I kind of like that. Let's do more of that. No, not quite. Let me tweak it a little bit. Oh, okay. I like that a little more. Oh, you can actually do XYZ with this. Oh, that's what I want to do. I didn't even know that existed until I went like, tried all these different things, right? So I want to encourage you that, and that's part of why the positive perspective is so important. Sorry, I'm not a positive girly. I'm so sorry. I just rolled my eyes at myself. I love it. I think it's important. I also think it's overrated. That is a whole separate issue that I should probably be talking to my therapist about. So we're gonna shelf that. Shelf that. The ADHD is ADHDing tonight. All right, moving on. My point is, I want you to feel validated and to feel free to experiment and try things and to I want to encourage you to adopt the attitude that adjusting and tweaking is normal. It's not because you messed up and I have to get back on the wagon and get your life together and like you don't actually. I checked. I'm 36 years old. My life is not together and I love it here. Okay, you don't have to have your life together. So, but I want to normalize because I think so often, like, we have this idea that every time I'm not on track, I'm failing or I'm falling off the wagon. Like, we have so many terms to describe this, and that's the only one I can think of. But it's you're moving away from course, you're not measuring up here, you're screwing up there, right? And so we have this image in our mind that like staying on the path is the only time you're like good. When you're on that path and you're doing everything exactly. And then we have this attitude that any deviation from the path is a mess up, a failure, a mistake. And it's really not. So we have this concept that like when you're on that path and you're doing everything right, like that's okay. That's when you're good. And then any deviation from that is like failure, bad, messing up. And so we have this, it creates this mindset that when you have to adjust or tweak or get back on track, that it's because you failed, because something went wrong. The train is off the tracks. I am here to tell you, you are not a train. Your life is not the tracks, okay? You are an adventurer, okay? Paving new way. You're hacking through a forest, bro. Okay, it's not going to be a straight line. Sometimes you're going to come across a huge tree. Sometimes you're going to have to like pivot cuz there's a lion over there. Okay, like you are in a jungle as an entrepreneur. Okay, there's not a clear path, especially depending on what you want to do. Some paths are clearer than others, right? And there are guides, There are people who have been like in similar places, like you're not completely on your own. It's a really extreme example. But like, okay, so I want you to think of your life as more of an adventure, like hacking through a jungle and paving your own way instead of a path that was set out that you are constantly like deviating from because you're a screw up and that you have to come back to. That is not, there is not, the path doesn't exist. You are creating the path, okay? And this is a euphemism, right? That's not like, I already said this, but I'm gonna say it again because I don't know. Like, yes, there are people who have been in similar situations. There are guides who know the area. There's tons of information about successful strategies and like things that can help you and things that you can glean from other people and all that kind of thing. I'm not saying like, I think I'm so like wanting to make sure this comes across correctly because I know entrepreneurship can be so lonely and you are not literally on your own. Okay. It's like you want, okay, well, we're going to keep going with this. You actually want a community, right? Just like in the jungle, you don't want to hack through it literally on your own. So you like bring people along with you in your party. But not everyone is like following the same exact path, right? You're going to fan out a little bit, maybe you're staggered. So even though you're going through it together and you're leaning on people and you're gaining wisdom and insight from other people and you're seeing people who've gone ahead, maybe you're not the first one in the group and there's people a few steps ahead of you who are willing to help you and tell you what they've seen and show you to watch out for this rattlesnake. Like, so you're not literally on your own, but it is not like a tightrope where you have to take every step perfectly in a line or you're going to fall off the tightrope and like you're done, you screwed up and you have to start all over and climb back up and get back on the tightrope and start from this end and go all the way through. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. It's more like a jungle where you're hacking your way through and you are forging a path and it is not a straight line and it's definitely not a tightrope. Okay, like you have so much room for activities. Okay, so that is really on my heart to encourage you and share with you that like, because it's so ingrained in us that like there's a right way and there's a wrong way and it's like meh, not always. Which is actually hurts my heart a little bit to say because I'm a little autistic and I do believe that there's a right way to do everything, but that is perfectionism that I'm working through. Okay. That is not real life, MaryBeth. And I've had to remind myself of that. And that's been really helpful. So I wanted to pass that along to you as well. Hey, so we're always talking about our dreams and making progress towards our goals on this podcast. But what if you don't know where to start, right? Maybe you're so full of amazing ideas that you have a hard time narrowing it down and picking something to start with. Or maybe after years of not having a say, you don't even know what you like or what you want anymore. Either way, I got you, okay? I created a free course that's just for you. It's a 5-day training on how to find your focus. It's super easy because all you got to do is you sign up and I'm going to deliver a lesson to your inbox every day. The course is all about helping you hone in on what lights you up so that you can focus on one thing at a time and start making progress towards your dream. It's super easy to sign up. You can go to thefierceframework.myflowdesk.com/focus. I know it's kind of long. Thefierceframework.myflowdesk, that's my FLO desk.com/focus. I've also got the link in the show notes, or you can always DM me at the Fierce Framework and I'll hook you up. So all that to say, when you're zooming out and you're looking down and you're like in that eagle view, that bird's eye view, and you're like looking at where you are and where you want to go, if you have to kind of like reroute or correct or like get back on track, that is not a bad thing. That is completely normal. Oh, and I distracted myself with the graph, the cluster graph, right? So if you see a cluster graph, I think that's what it's called. It's basically a bunch of dots. So it's like a bunch of data points from whatever, how much people liked a certain flavor of ice cream, like, depending on the age range, whatever. And it's not actually a line, it's a bunch of dots of data. It's a bunch of dots, just a ton of all clustered, right? But then when you look at the trend, okay, which requires what? Time and movement. Okay. If you don't go anywhere, you're not going to have a cluster graph. You're going to have a dot, the same dot over and over and over. But if you're moving, you have a dot here, dot here, dot here, you're making progress. Okay. And when you look at the cluster, it's a bunch of different dots, but it trends. Okay. So you have action, you have multiple dots, and you have the x-axis, so whether that's time or like different population or whatever. But in the analogy that like I'm trying to create here, that would be time on your part, like how long you've been trying for. And every data point, every dot is you trying. Okay, so not every try is going to be in a perfect line. You're going to be kind of all over the place. But when you come back and you zoom out and you look, you will be able to see the trend where all your efforts and all your little dots are making progress over time. And that's why I'm always harping on keep going, keep trying, don't give up, because that is how you create the experience. Like that is how you make the path, right? So if you were forging a path in the jungle, this is so many analogies, I'm so sorry. If you were forging a path in the jungle, and you keep waiting for like a clearly lined out path, it's never going to happen. So when you hack the brush away and you take one step, that's a big deal. Clap. Pour yourself some champagne. Okay. Yes. And then do it again because that was one step and you have so many steps to go. That doesn't make any step not important. It just means that there are a lot of important moments, a lot of important action that you will be taking in order to get where you want to go. Okay. So I spent most of this time talking about the bird's eye view and why that's important. Because also like just giving the perspective to see kind of where you are and where you want to go and trying to help navigate like what are the things that are going to get me there. And that is really important. And then most of the time, so a lot of the time, like that, what I wanted to say earlier is that is part of why it's so important to have those moments of reflection and celebrating your wins and like taking time to like look back and resetting goals. I did talk about this. Okay. And like realigning, making sure like what you want to do is still what you want to do because um wow, I'm trying to tie in like the popular idea of reflecting and kind of like give it meaning and explain that that's part of why that's important. And then those mouse steps, those on the ground, those hacking the brush away, those steps are critical. Those are that is it. Like that is literally the things. That is how you get anywhere is by taking those steps. So, yeah, literally crucial to your journey because if you didn't take steps, you would not get anywhere. Okay. And I think this is part of what is so hard because you zoom out and you see where you want to go and you get really excited about it, right? And you see how far away it is. And then you come back down to the daily grind, like to those baby steps, to the brush where like you're surrounded by jungle and every step is like a fight. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like there's so many, I have to take so many steps. And it can get so overwhelming. But it is so important because those steps are the only thing that matters in a journey. That movement, that progress is the journey. There is nothing else. Like that is the thing. Is taking those steps. And that's where so many of us get stuck because it's hard and it's redundant. Okay. If you are running a 5K, I was going to say marathon, let's be realistic. If you're running a 5K, how many times do you have to put one foot in front of the other? Oh my gosh. Like, we get it. We're so over, it, right? And that's why some of us don't run. But, like, okay, that is the whole point, is putting one step in front of the other. So, like, why are you mad about it? Like, that's the thing. That's what a 5K is. So when you're reaching out to clients or reaching out to prospective clients or networking or trying to get the word out or asking for the sale and you're doing it over and over and over, I know it's really hard to get discouraged, but try not to, because you're literally doing it. And those things are not one and done. Like, you're never going to stop. Ugh, I hate to say this, right? But it's like you're never going to stop selling if you're an entrepreneur. Because, like, that's what you do. You're selling your good, you're selling your service, and there's different ways to do it, right? So that's why I think it's important to say, even though it's like, oh, salesy, like, no, you don't have to be like unethical. You don't have to lose your integrity. Like, you can sell in ways that are ethical and that feel good, and that is you offering a solution to a problem, right? Um, so there's different ways to do it, but, like, you're never gonna stop doing the thing. So honestly, like, recognizing the value in that, of every step you're taking, is literally the journey that you are on. You are literally doing the thing that you are wanting to do, that you're trying to do, like, you're doing it. And so those steps are so critical. And it's important, like, the zooming out, right, can help us determine which steps are strategic and are getting us, like, where we want to go, right? So say you do zoom out and maybe you're in, like, deep brush and you're hacking your way and, like, every step is a battle, and and then but you zoom out and you see, like, 2 yards to your left there's actually, like, kind of a path. Somebody else has been there before. Somebody's hacked out a little bit of brush, or maybe antelope created a little path or whatever. Like, okay, it's a little bit smoother sailing over there. Or you zoom out and you're like, there's water or a place to stop or shelter over here. Like, okay, so then you can, like, redirect and go towards that. Or, if there is a little bit of a path, you can scooch on over there and be like, all right, let me get a little bit more momentum. Like, if there's an easier way for me to do this, if there's a more strategic way for me to do this, let me try that and see if I can make a little more progress. Okay. You can also, when you're taking those baby steps, right, and you're in the brush, you're in the jungle, if you look around, everything is going to look the same, right? Depending on where you are. In my mind, you're, like, deep in the jungle, and I'm picturing, like, Jungle Book, right? And you, like, look around and it's just trees and jungle everywhere, right? You can't really tell where is what and, like, which way you should be going. And so you could very easily be here and take a few steps that way, and then come back, take a few steps that way, come back. So you could be taking a million steps like a treadmill and never get anywhere. Or you can keep going in one direction and make some progress. So there's so much I want to say. I do think, yeah. So the last, the last piece I want to say is, like, speaking of that and kind of those steps back and forth. Now, mm, I don't use that example to discourage you from, like, trying things, because I think of that more as, like, fighting for my life. So here's, like, the path, right? And you kind of go here, and then you, like, come here, and then you come here, but you're still making progress, right? But you're kind of maybe pivoting, trying different things, checking things out. But if you are trying and then it gets hard and you give up. You try and then it gets hard and you give up. And you're always coming back to the same spot. You're not making progress. Okay. And I think that one of the most important things that I want to highlight with the bird's eye view and the baby steps is prioritize the steps that are getting you where you want to go. There's a million steps you could be taking. So if you're in a jungle and you're looking, you could walk towards any tree. You could walk around in a circle. You could walk around in a circle forever. The Israelites spent 40 years in a desert, and I don't think it was even that big. Like, you can waste a lot of time walking around in a circle. And here's why I was hesitating to say it because I feel like this is like harsh truth. And I could talk about this for forever. So, but I'm just gonna like give you a tidbit. And if you want to hear more about it, we can talk more about it next time. But it is very easy to be taking steps towards things that you don't necessarily that aren't necessarily going to get you where you want to go. Okay. So I see a lot of us like putting a ton of time and effort and money into designing the perfect website or logo or business cards. And we're like doing all these things. And somebody told me that it was Meg's told me it was somebody she was listening to calls it entrepreneur porn. And then I've also heard of it as I forget wasting your time basically. Um, but it's like there's so many things you could be doing, but which things are going to get you where you want to go? Okay. And I know from personal experience, it feels better. It's more fun to spend your time working on like your Instagram bio or your business cards instead of literally talking to people and asking them if they want to work with you. Because you have all that like fear of rejection and you don't want to come across as a sleazy salesperson and like this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of things to work through because entrepreneurship is like the most intense self development course there is. Okay. But like that's the point is you work through those things so that you keep going, so that you become the person who is the person that you have to be to get to the end of the journey. Like that's all part of it. That's all baked in. So that is one of the things that I think is the most important about gaining that perspective and then coming back down to those baby steps and being able to ask yourself like, is this really getting me where I want to go? Do I really need to rebrand again? Do I really need to like tweak my logo? Is that going to get me to be able to quit my corporate job? Or is interacting with people, having conversations, figuring out how I can serve someone, how I can fix their problem, and offering that solution to them, is that going to get me closer? Because that's way more uncomfortable. And you set yourself up for rejection, right? Because you like, you build up all this courage to offer to help someone, and then you tell them how much it's gonna cost them. See, I can't even talk about it. How much it's gonna cost them for you to help them, and then they're like, no. And then you take that personally, and that's a whole thing. And I get it, girl. We've all been there, okay? But that is what's gonna get you where you want to go, not starting another social media profile. So, you know, just the mean big sister over here, leaving you on a harsh note as well. But I have heard that more than once, and I've needed that reminder more than once. So that is another thing that I wanted to pass on to you because I think we all need to hear it sometimes. Just be like, hey, you don't need business cards. You need to ask for the sale. Okay, those are the steps that are going to get you where you want to go. If you want to keep walking around in circles, like, oh, yeah, that's your choice. That's part of the beauty of doing your own thing and like forging your own path is you can walk wherever you want to go. But when you zoom out and you're looking like, is this getting me where I actually want to go? Then when you come back down, you get into the nitty gritty of those steps, and you're like, which steps am I taking? Which steps do I need to be taking? Which ones are actually valuable? Okay. And I know it's hard, and you're in good company. And you're also in luck because I have coaching slots open. So I do have a couple slots open. So sorry, I wasn't even like planning to think of this, but I am working on asking for the sale, practicing what I preach. And it was just like, oh yeah, I was like, literally, I can help you. So hit me up if that's your vibe. Otherwise, keep becoming fierce, and I can't wait to see you next time.